The North Carolina Green Party is going to court. It's suing the State Board of Elections for denying the Green Party's certification as an official political party, which would get it a spot on North Carolina's election ballot. Joining us to discuss the suit is one of the plaintiffs, Matthew Ho. He is the Green Party's candidate for U.S. Senate. Thanks for joining us.
Hi, Mitch. Thanks for having me here.
So first of all, let's talk a little bit about the process. Outside of the two major political parties, Republicans and Democrats, if a political party wants to get on North Carolina's ballot, there is a process. You either have to get a certain number of votes in a previous election or be an official party in a large number of other states, or go through this certification process where you get petition signatures. That's what the Green Party did in this case, correct?
Correct. That's correct. And in order to do that, we needed 13,865 signatures. We collected more than 22,500 signatures. Of those, almost 15,953 signatures were verified by the county boards of elections. The counties are the level at which the validation of those signatures take place. And for people who are not familiar with petitioning, not just in North Carolina, but across the country, the rule of thumb is basically for every 4 signatures you collect, 3 will count. It's just the way it works. People put the wrong address down. They think they're registered. They're not registered. So you generally have about a 70 or 75% verification rate. So we were right in that band. We met all the deadlines, turned the signatures in as needed. Procedurally, we're correct. Went to the State Board of Elections for certification at the end of June, and we were denied certification because of this theory that there could be fraud, even though the State Board of Elections have failed to show that there was.
And you pointed out the numbers again, but let's repeat them. This wasn't a close thing within a couple of signatures here and there. You had several thousand more signatures that were verified than what you needed.
Correct. We had almost 2,100 signatures more than were required to meet the threshold to get on the ballot.
What was the justification that the Board of Elections gave as to why it was not going to go ahead with this certification?
So we had to turn our signatures into the State Board of Elections by June 1st. There is an additional July 1st statutory deadline for us to be certified on the ballot, to be certified to be on the ballot by the State Board of Elections. In addition to that, there were requirements for us to hold a nominating convention, to have our people go and register as Greens, and then for our candidates to file for office by July 1st. So after certification, we had to do all those things. This just goes to show the bad faith that was presented by the State Board of Elections, because they didn't hold the certification hearing until June 30th. So even if they had certified us, we would have had 1 day to complete all those other steps. So this is why we're saying from the get-go, this was deliberately planned for us not to be certified. But we presented the signatures to the board on June 1st. They held them for 30 days. They did this investigation where they looked at a number of signatures, we believe about 200 or so, signatures that were never verified. So never went towards our count of verified signatures to meet the threshold required. At the certification hearing, the rationale was because there are these irregularities, and again, the state had them for 30 days and could show us no signs of wrongdoing or fraud or provide any details or evidence of such of that. But because there were these irregularities, that means there could be more. And because there could be more, we are duty bound to investigate further. But however, since tomorrow is the deadline, we don't have that time to investigate, so we are not going to certify. And this is why we say it's all been in bad faith, because there has been no due process. Again, the evidence is not there. We fully cooperated with them. And they are using this theory that is underwritten with no evidence, no facts, no details to say that there could be fraud. So since there could be, and a lot of things could be, as we all know, right? We are not going to certify you.
So we've been talking so far about the Green Party, what it did to get on the ballot, the State Board of Elections, and the decision that it made not to certify the party. We haven't yet talked about some outside influence on this process by some groups that were trying to get people who had signed the petition to take their names off. Tell us what you can about that, because I know that's also spelled out in the complaint.
Right. So, in parallel to what's going on with the State Board of Elections, the Democratic Senatorial Campaign Committee, the DSCC, and the Elias law firm, which is Mark Elias's law firm. Mark Elias is arguably the most prominent Democratic attorney in the nation, came down here from Washington, D.C. to challenge our petition process to try and keep us from being recognized as a political party. They received the public records from the State Board of Elections and immediately went into a process of calling, texting, and visiting people at their homes in order to get them to remove their names from petitions. While doing this, they sometimes identify themselves as the Democratic Party. Other times they refused to say who they were, but on several occasions, or on many occasions, and we have documentation of this through audio recording, they identified themselves as being with the Green Party. Other times we have been told that they identified themselves as being with the State Board of Elections or with the Secretary of State's office. So the Elias law firm, working with and we have this in our complaint, we allege working with the governor's office, an executive agency that's supposed to be nonpartisan, has worked to undermine our petition effort by deliberately misleading, I really should say lying to people about who they are in an effort to try and get people to remove their names from our petition so that they can say the Green Party can't be on the ballot.
And when the Board of Elections came up with its decision about the Green Party, we should point out that it was a split vote. This wasn't the unanimous board. 3 members who are Democrats voted against the certification. The 2 Republican members voted for it, or at least voted against the motion from the Democrats. Does your complaint allege that the Democratic members of the Board of Elections were involved in this as well?
Well, absolutely. This was a blatant and really brazen partisan decision. And I hope no one gets me wrong. I believe that if we were a conservative organization, the opposite would have occurred. The Republicans would have been arguing against us and the Democrats for us, because this is ultimately what this comes back to, this idea that the two-party system is corrupt, it's undemocratic, and it's harmful. So absolutely, we contend that there are issues here that are that go into invalidate why we are doing this, why we are trying to create a multi-party democracy, and why we were met with the enthusiasm for that by tens of thousands of North Carolina registered voters, because people know full well that this is a corrupt system whose purposes are to keep out of power those who want to represent working class people, middle class people, in order to make sure that those in power can continue to serve the interests of their donors, in this case, the corporations, the banks, the wealthy, et cetera.
So you filed the suit. If the suit goes the way that the Green Party and the plaintiffs in the case want, what will happen?
We have asked the courts to immediately certify us and to place our candidates onto the ballot for November. We are concerned that both the State Board of Elections, so the state of North Carolina, via the governor's office, more or less, as well as the Democratic Party, will do everything they can to delay us, to throw up different challenges and hindrances, the obstacles, so that we cannot be on the ballot, for the simple reason that the ballots have already been printed. And there is a mid-August deadline for ballot printing that we're up against. So we do have an issue here where time is of the essence. And so we are enjoining the courts to consider that as they hear our plea and review our complaint.
Matthew Hoh is the U.S. Senate candidate for the North Carolina Green Party. If he can get his party on the ballot, and Carolina Journal will be following this legal action very closely. Matthew, thanks so much for taking the time to chat with us.
Hey, thank you, Mitch.